This episode of the Empty Netters podcast is brought to you, as always, by our unbelievable sponsor in Labatt Blue Light. No question about it, the number one beer to drink at any time, but especially during the Stanley Cup Playoffs, and we're headed right into the final right now.
And I've never needed Labatt Blue Light more.
Yeah.
It's just been with me the whole way. I've been sleeping with it lately. I take a bottle, keep it closed, put it right under the pillow. Makes a better pillow than you think because it's the smoothest, softest Canadian kindness light beer you'll ever have in your life.
It was just Memorial Day weekend this past weekend, and we stayed in town, which is hashtag rare for us. And we ended up at a nice little sports bar in LA, and they had Labatt Blue Light on tap, and I think I drank 500 of them. Because it is just truly the crispest, most delicious tasting Pilsner on the market. Like you said, there is that Canadian kindness in every single sip. It's unbelievable. And usually I have to go on the store locator, find where they got Labatt's so I can get up, stock the fridge. Finding it at a bar like that, God, it's the best feeling in the entire world.
And by the way, it's getting more and more popular. It's in more and more stores everywhere I look. That Labatt Blue Light staring me baby blues into my baby blues, and I couldn't be happier about it.
Guys, we know sometimes you don't want a super filling beer, but you don't have to sacrifice taste when you get a light, crisp Pilsner like this. So make the right decision. Get some Labatt Blue Lights into your life, into your fridge, into the hands of all of your friends. It's an absolute no-brainer. Pop one while you're watching the Cup. Let's do it. All right, guys, we are back with another episode of the Empty Netters podcast, and we are headed to the Stanley Cup final.
We did it, and it's one of those things that it's like anticipation is gold, dude. Anticipation is gold, and it's the things I almost don't even like when big events arrive. Like when I've got a bachelor party with the boys or my buddy's wedding or something. I just like looking forward to it. I hate when it's even here.
Yeah.
So I've just been looking forward to the Stanley Cup playoffs since we dropped the puck in October or whenever that was.
Sure.
And now it's here, and I'm happy I'm here. I'm fucking fully charged, fully torqued up, fully torqued.
You bricked up, dude?
I'm bricked up for the Cup. That was pretty cool, actually. Bricked up for the Cup. That should be like, it used to be.
It's Liev Schreiber reading a unbelievable commercial narration, and he says this beautiful soliloquy about what's going on in the Cup, what it means to everyone, and then he goes, because there's no game like this, and there's nothing that gets you bricked up like the Cup.
And then this, like, yeah,
is that real?
No.
Oh, Jesus. I thought that was like actually aired. I was like, damn.
Wow, NHL going dark.
NHL going R-rated.
Yeah.
I fucking love that.
But I like that. We maybe need to make a graphic bricked up for the Cup.
Yeah,
With Liev Schreiber as like the...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can get
Maybe
on
you
that.
can edit his...
We could probably have AI do his voice that's saying
Yeah, because there's like
bricked up
deepfake.
for the Cup.
Easily. Yeah, I'll get on that.
All right, we'll work on that. That's
I like
great.
that. I like that. I like that.
That's just my brain going to work there, by the way. Did you see that?
Yeah, that was really deep.
Yeah.
I mean, I got you there.
Yeah, you will. It was a team effort. You're right.
Yeah. Hey, we've got an amazing episode today, guys. We have several days here. Brian, producer Brian, dying. Wrong pipe?
Yeah.
Fucking
All right.
We're good. We've got an amazing episode. Maybe not yet. Maybe not yet.
Jesus Christ. It's been a while since that happened.
It sucks, dude. It fucking sucks.
That's rough.
Dude, wrong pipe is alarming.
All right, we're good.
There we go. Don't cut any of that out.
Okay.
We've got a amazing episode coming up for you guys here. We got Pete Blackburn joining the pod. If you're not familiar with Pete, get familiar with Pete. He's on Twitter at Pete Blackburn. He is an unbelievable hockey personality. He does NHL coverage for Bally Sports. He's been on Fox. He's been on CBS. He is just the voice that the NHL needs way, way more of. He's got this great approach to the game. He's got an incredible understanding of the game. He does it in a fun, lighthearted way. Of course, meshed with us perfectly. He's a New England guy. We had a great talk. We're going to get into a full breakdown of all the series, the playoffs so far as they've gone, because we've got 5 days now here until the puck drop of game one, I think.
Yep.
So we've got to talk about how these playoffs have gone, and Pete was the perfect guest to jump on. But before we do that, we're going to rip quickly into those last two games of the Vegas-Dallas series that we last episode we were recording during Game 4 when Dallas survived.
Pav kept them alive.
So, Chris, take me away. Let's just quickly touch on these two games and how this series wrapped up, and then we'll hop into
Well,
Pete.
Game 5, you go back to Vegas,
Yep.
and that felt like the death blow if you're a Vegas fan, because you're like, okay, we're home. Yeah, Pav saved him in OT, but we're obviously winning this game. That was going to be the hard one for Dallas. It was one of those, we talk about this all series, all playoffs, but it was like, that's one of those, well, you just got to steal game 5 in Vegas, 'cause then you get to come home and win, and then it's game 7, anything can happen. Vegas went up a goal twice in that game. Went up 1-0 and went up 2-1. Dallas tied it both times, went up, pulled away in the third, won 4-2. It was a great game. That was a great hockey game. Otter made 32 saves. He was awesome, but Hill was awesome, dude. Like, he made a sick save on Hintz in the first. He made that moronic save on Ronta, that diving save across the goal line. Are you fucking shitting me right now? The world will know Aiden Hill's name when I'm done with him. I promise you that.
That's true.
But then, you know what? I actually wanted to ask you this. Dallas's third goal.
Weak. Very
After
weak.
he made preposterous saves to get there. And the announcer goes like this. In a game 5, so on the replay, and they go, in a game 5, that one just can't go in, which is objectively true. But I'm like,
yeah, but I don't know why he specified game. Like, he should have just said playoffs. Like, in a playoff series, that goal came.
Right. You know,
like, game 5, like, who gives a shit, dude?
Up 3-1.
And you're up 3-1. Like, you know, if it were the other way and it's an elimination game, he could have been like, in an elimination game, that can't go in. But it's like, no, that's okay, dude. I mean, you don't want to let that in, but that's not the game 5 is not the really important part here.
But here's my bigger question for you, and I fucking do this all the time, so I'm not placing blame on, forget who is announcing that game, but it kills me. If you watch, I dare any of you to pull up the Game 5 Stars Knights highlights. The entire fucking video will be Aiden Hill standing on his fucking head, making saves to keep the game tied, and then that one goes in, and they're like this, Aiden Hill, absolute killer. And I'm like, well, it should be 8-2. So what the fuck are you talking about? And that's what I wanted to ask you. First of all, name me another position that has more heat than goalie in any sport.
Dude, nothing.
But second of all, where are you at on that? Because I try to always stay in check on if I'm owed one or the goalie owes me one. Like if the goalies stopped 3 breakaways, even in fucking men's league, dude, if Schmirt makes 3 breakaway saves and then lets up a soft one, I don't get mad because I'm like, he stopped 3 breakaways.
I do. I will always get mad at a soft goal because I would hope that people get mad at me. I mean, I'm not saying you need to come and bite my head off, but I would hope that everyone respects me and my game enough to be like this. You shouldn't be letting that in. You shouldn't be getting burned on the outside like that. You shouldn't be losing your man in front of the net like that. I don't want you to come scream at me. And if I've been playing out of my mind and I make one mistake, I think you go like this. All right, whatever. But I still want you to be like, fuck, that was bad.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I did with Aiden Hill.
Yep.
And I also think you make a great point, dude. Anyone who's talking about Aiden Hill now without just stars in your eyes is a moron because you brought this up. This is great. Going into this game, Bob's save percentage, .935 or with a 2.21 goals against.
And how many shutouts?
One. Aiden Hill. 0.937
better
save percentage, 2.07
better,
and 2 shutouts
better.
So just saying, everyone's talking about Bob by the numbers, and it's a smaller sample size.
When did Hill come in?
Round 2.
So he played 6 games against Dallas, and who did they beat? Oh, the Oilers.
Yeah.
So like 3, right? I want to say he played 3 of those 6 against Edmonton. So he's played 9 games. Yeah. Bob's played 4 and 5 is 9 plus 3 against Boston.
I think he played 5 against Boston.
So 14.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 5 more games, but that's something to think about.
I agree. And I'm just saying Aiden Hill is a star goalie in these playoffs. He's the second best goalie in the playoffs.
Best by the numbers.
Yeah, I just think Bob has been out of control. Yeah. But I'm just saying, that's a fantastic goalie. Brian, before we get into this next part, can you look up right now the Dallas Stars cap space? Because there's some things that I want to have questions about.
Do you want me to talk about Game 6 while he looks?
That's what I'm getting into right now. Okay. So Game 6, we start here, and it's over before it starts.
Absolutely dick stomp.
It was just one of those the goals were just so spaced out, dude. It was like Vegas goes up. Vegas goes up 2. You literally go get a beer. You look down. Vegas is up 3. This is on, what was this on? Sunday?
Monday, right? It was
last night. It was Memorial Day. That's right. This is a Memorial Day game. And you go to check the grill. You go to pop the fridge open to find another beer, another Labatt Blue Light. And you look back at the TV. It's 3-0. You go like this, oh my God. And you turn to tell your buddy, Jesus, they scored again. You look back at the TV. It's 4-0. It was just one of those games, dude. Yep. And Dallas was truly never in it for 1 single second. And I'm curious in the situation of you are up, or excuse me, You lose Jamie Benn
Yeah.
for 2 games. You win those 2 games, he's out. You're 0-4 in games he's in this series. Listen, we're not here to tinfoil hat. We're not. We posted a clip of our reaction of his response to the Mark Stone play. I was shocked with how much vitriol there was for Jamie Benn. People hate him online.
I can't remember. I thought I said this on an episode with you. I must have just missed this. Like,
Me
I
too.
didn't realize that everyone's like, Jamie Benn's a scumbag. And I was like, oh, is he?
I had no idea, like truly no idea. And you're looking at a guy who's 33 years old. He's making $9.5 million.
Is this what you wanted to see?
Yes. This is into next season and the season after.
Yeah, 2
He
more
is
years.
the captain of this team when it truly feels like Joe Pavelski is the captain of this team. Now you've got Rupe Hansen, Jason Robertson completely taking over.
Yep.
Do you do whatever you possibly can to get rid of this guy?
9. No one's taken that, right? Unless you're eating some of it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's those situations the Bruins a little while ago had David Backes on the roster and said no one is ever going to take that, and Anaheim did.
Well, he was at like 5, wasn't he?
He was making $6 million a year.
Well, here's what I don't know. I don't know what the thought of him is in the locker room.
Yep.
Because if people like him, obviously you don't want to pay for a guy doing nothing, but if people like him and he is a good leader, then I think you don't. But if there's any question of that in the locker room with the young guys you've got coming up, then yes.
If there is a whiff of being like, we should move on.
Yeah.
I think you do it.
I thought you were going to ask this. If you are Jamie Benn and they lose or you win 2 games while you're out, I don't think he's like, don't play me, coach.
No, of course not.
But what would you have said if Dallas sat him down? Like his suspension was up and they were like, don't play.
I think it would have been utterly shocking. I think people would have been like, oh my God. And I would have done the same thing.
And then if they lost 6-0 with him out, it would have been Armageddon, dude.
I don't know if it would have been Armageddon only because you're already down 3-0 and like then.
Yeah, and I guess you won without him already. But yeah.
But there's no way you could have sat him down. But yeah.
Yeah, dude, brutal one. I actually, apparently everyone hates him, but I actually feel bad for the guy because even though I think he was obviously trying to hit Mark Stone in the face, I do agree that he was just too hot. He was too hot in that moment. I don't think he's a bad guy and was like, I'm going to break Mark Stone's nose today. I just think he was too hot in that moment and Mark's stick was high and he was like, fuck this, and just gave him one. So to think, oh my God, I let my team down. I cost us game 3, which he fucking did.
Yeah.
Then his boys rally for him in game 4 and 5. He must have been like, I cannot wait to get out here in front of the crowd at home and like show the fans I'm a captain. I'm ready. I'm here for the boys. And then to just get pummeled. I was like,
just awful. You wonder if that's in his head too.
Yeah.
I think actually part of me would have been like, I'm going to just keep my head down and play my game tonight. Like I wouldn't have tried. I would have been a Milton man. I would have tried to be a Milford man. I would have been neither seen nor heard.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted to blend in, play my game.
have your guy.
But I do think it goes back to what we talked about when we reacted to his answer to the whole thing was just, that's just not a leader, dude. Like it showed a weird, and I know nothing about Jamie Benn as a person, or as a teammate, but I thought it showed a weird element of character and professionalism that I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you saying that? Like, and it didn't seem like he was trying to gloss over it. And you even look at the Pietrangelo Draisaitl shit where Pietrangelo almost went the heel and he was like, they're fucking cheap shotting me all over the place, dude. Like, fuck that. This is a hard series. I almost prefer that where he's also like, I'm not fucking apologizing. Yeah, I fucking slashed him.
Yeah.
Because at least he was like, I fucking slashed him. Can you imagine if Pietrangelo was like, dude, there was a fly on his shoulder. And I was like, that could be poisonous. I'm going to get that. It's like borderline what Jamie Benn did. So I didn't like any of it. And then, it just must have sucked to get back on the ice and then get your fucking shit pushed in.
Killer.
Like that.
So yeah, I felt bad for the fans, felt bad for the squad. They got some questions to ask going forward. But Vegas punches their ticket, dude.
Yeah.
Vegas, Florida. Who would have thunk it?
Vegas to their second Stanley Cup final in 6 years.
Florida to their second in 60.
And what's pretty exciting here is no matter what happens, we are getting a first-time Stanley Cup winner.
Which I'm pumped about.
I think it's fantastic, dude. I'll never understand people who are like, that's shitty.
Yep.
I'm like, what are you talking about? It's awesome. So that's really fun. We're going to get into all the series. And then also, guys, we got an episode later this week where we will, do the full breakdown talking about what's going on in the league, talking about what's going on in this final. But let's jump right into Pete.
Let's kick it to Pete.
We're going to kick it to Pete Blackburn. Guys, hope you enjoyed this as much as we did. All right, we're ripping you guys with this new episode of the Empty Netters podcast, and we're pumped to be joined by Pete Blackburn. Amazing NHL coverage on Bally Sports. You've worked for Fox, CBS. The guy does it all. He has a unbelievable entertainment and pop culture podcast as well. A fellow heartbroken man of the Boston Bruins. Boston native. Welcome to the podcast, my man.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be alongside some Bostonians who can understand what it feels like, especially a day after the Celtics kind of doubled down on the disappointment.
Yes.
There was a point in time where we were planning a double duck boat parade in the city, and boy, oh boy, things can go south pretty quickly.
It's unbelievable, man. A buddy of mine texted me yesterday in the middle of the Celtics game, and he was like, I thought we were going to get 2 championships this year, and it turns out we're getting 0. And both of them are being ripped out of our hands by South Florida teams. It's unbelievable.
8 seeds.
Yeah.
8 seeds nonetheless.
Oh, my God.
Pete,
damn it.
Pete, this is kind of gnarly, but it's funny. One of our boys from home actually lives in Jersey now. We were doing a watch party during Devils round 2 in Jersey, came to the bar. And after the game was over, some Devils fans were talking to all of us about how does it feel being a Bruins fan going through that? And our buddy Eric goes, honestly, it felt like having a stillborn child. And everyone was like, whoa, dude.
Boy, that's dark.
And then he goes, but listen to me. It's like you've had this beautiful thing, and you just got more and more excited about it for 9 months. And then like that, it was gone. And I was like, you know what? That wasn't the worst analogy I've ever heard.
Yeah,
it's dark, but
it's dark.
It sort of checks out.
I'm never going to claim that as my own, but
God.
it kind of checks out. It kind of checks out. How dialed have you been into, were you able to maintain your focus? Obviously, you do it for a career, so we kind of have to here, but have you had fun with these playoffs?
Yeah, like as much as I possibly could have. And honestly, like the fact that it kept going allowed me to kind of that was like my coping mechanism. I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to like I'll table it, and I'll deal with the grief after this is all done, but like at least I can continue to watch hockey and continue to enjoy hockey and kind of get my fix that way. But yeah, I mean, like I feel like it's never as painful as losing the last game of the season, right? Like 2019 was brutal. Just because I felt like they were the better team and they should have won that series, and they let it slip away from them. And especially on home ice, like I was there, and it like from a professional standpoint, that was the first two of the first on-scene live hits I've ever done for TV were after Game 5 and after Game 7 at the Garden. And so it was a real test of whether I could do this professionally and like maintain a level of professionalism. And I'll tell you what, like after Game 5, I felt like I was like maybe going to cry on TV. And that was not a great feeling, but like to be able to get through it after Game 7 and like the Blues right behind me on the ice, passing around the Stanley Cup. And to be able to get through that, I felt invincible. I was like, if I can get through this, I'm going to be able to do anything. And even losing Game 7 this year, like it didn't quite hurt as much as 2019.
That's so true. I think when there's more hockey to distract you, it's like it's kind of that old adage. Like if something bad happens with you in the news cycle, everyone's like, just wait. Like tomorrow something new will happen. When there's more hockey, it's like, you know what? Just wait. In this circumstance, all we had to do was wait and see the Leafs get bounced in 5 games. And then we had to wait and see the Hurricanes get swept. And it's like, great. Other stuff takes the heat off you a little bit here.
It does help that like all the big dogs in the Eastern Conference who were hyped up got knocked out and like pretty unceremoniously. And, it is the Panthers who, beat the Bruins are now in the Stanley Cup final. Like it does ease the pain a little bit, but on the other side of that too, like the Bruins came so close to knocking off the Panthers where you can talk yourself into being like, this easily could have been the Bruins.
Dude,
they had just won that one game.
I could not agree with that more. Like when the Rangers lost, I was like, these guys are under the gun just as much as we are, just trying to deflect a little bit. But then, when you see this Panthers team just absolutely handle everyone else, I'm like, fuck, we would have just done that. We would have beat the Leafs. We would have beat the Hurricanes. And it's like, God damn it. But at the same time, it is nice seeing them trouncing their way to the Stanley Cup
Pete,
final.
we're doing this series. We've been doing this series during the playoffs on the IG page. That's like, they wouldn't have won the cup if, and it's like, you just think back up at these plays that are unsung plays on the way to the cup. And we opened it up with Michael Ryder's glove save in game 3 against the Habs in round 1, So it's like little plays like that. And dude, all I've been thinking about this whole fucking time is that Bobrovsky save on Marchand's breakaway in game 5, that I'm like, they are literally going to win the cup because of this one save, dude. And you had the funniest tweet. I read it to Dan on our live on pod when you go, Bobrovsky, you should go to hell for that save.
Oh, yeah. I forgot what I said, but yeah, I do remember that now. I think I said that like literally 5 minutes after it happened, where just because the roof of the building would have blown off, and it would have been an all-time moment in my entire life. It would have been extremely hard to top. Experience that building after that goal, like at the buzzer. It would have been incredible.
That would absolutely have gone down as one of the great Bruins playoff moments ever. And then if the Bruins had won the cup, but I'm so mad at myself because we popped into this fucking studio 2 days later, not even 1 day later, and I was like, at that point, what we went, that made it 3-2.
Yeah, that was going to be a gentleman's,
because that would have been the gentleman's sweep. I said the next day, totally thinking to myself, there's no way this will be the case. If the Panthers go on and win the Stanley Cup, we will all look back at that save and say that was the most important play for the Panthers all playoffs. And I was like, there's no way that'll happen. And here we fucking are. And that might go down in the history books as the greatest save.
I thought it'd be a great save if they won the series. Like I was like, even if they win the series, what a legendary save. And now they're in the fucking finals.
It's just, oh my God, it hurts so much worse.
And you're talking about like the series that you guys are doing, like the margins are so razor thin between winning a cup and just like having the narrative completely shift. And like, I know everybody says it, but like there is like 1 or 2 bounces can make the difference and sort of like change the course of an entire franchise, an entire like team's destiny. And, it's hard, like, especially when you're talking about a Bruins team that like was historically good during the regular season. It's hard to like excuse the first round fallout, especially when you were up 3-1. But like, that's kind of the game, especially when you get to the playoffs. It's like 1 or 2 things go wrong for you, and that's it. Like, that's it in snowballs.
Dude, I didn't like the matchup before the playoffs even started. As that end of the East was shaking out, and I was like, oh, we might get Pitt, might get the Islanders, whatever. And I'm sure, I don't know what the regular season splits were. I'm sure they were dominant, Bruins over Florida. Or maybe it was 2-2. Do you remember that?
Which one?
The regular season Bruins, Florida.
Yeah, it was 2-2.
Yeah, so it's like, but they were just so high scoring that, to your point, Pete, it just felt dangerous. Like something, one hot goalie, or they go on a scoring spree. So, like anything could happen. Where I was like, give me the Islanders who score a goal a game every night, and we'll just pummel them. But like, I hated the matchup. I was happy to be wrong when it looked like we were going to win in 5. But then as it started to snowball, I was like, here we go, dude. Just an absolute killer.
It's brutal. But, I mean, listen, we're talking about the Panthers. Obviously, they punched their ticket with a sweep over Carolina, which is so brutal for the Hurricanes. And then last night, Vegas takes care of business and beats the shit out of Dallas. So now we've got a Vegas, Florida matchup in the final. I want to know how you both are feeling. Like, what do you think about this matchup, Pete?
I mean, it doesn't register for me as like the most exciting matchup, but like I also am willing to recognize like these have been the 2 best teams during the Stanley Cup final, and they both deserve to be there. It's just, and I'm not like I'm not one of those like 2 non-traditional markets. Great, what, like this is gonna kill the league or whatever. I think that if your league relies on an original 6 team or like a handful of markets to always represent in the Stanley Cup final, it's a flawed league. And we should be like kind of celebrating non-traditional markets getting there and growing and, having their opportunity. But that being said, like Vegas to me is almost a boring team just because they have been so consistent, and like they don't have a whole lot of chaos to their game. I think the Panthers have a little bit more chaos, but like when you think back on this Vegas run, there haven't been a whole lot of like holy crap moments that you can put on a Stanley Cup DVD or whatever. It's more just like them taking care of business on a nightly basis and doing it in like somewhat unspectacular fashion. So like that's why I'm not like super amped up about the Cup Finals, just because I don't think that there's going to be I don't think there's going to be like a ton of chaos to it. I do think that it's going to be a pretty good, intriguing matchup that I'm interested to see how it plays out. And I think that like competitively, the margins are going to be pretty small.
That's how I've felt about it, because you're so right. Vegas has, in my opinion, been the most consistent team. And that sounds funny to say when you look at Florida, who 1-7 beat the number 1 seed, then 1-5, or 1-5, and then 1-4. It's like, it's hard to act like, oh, they haven't been consistent. But when you look at their game, they're winning these games where they have 17 shots on net, and they're getting pounded, and they win in 4 OT, and then last minute buzzer goal to finish the sweep. So I do agree. I think Vegas has just been this really deep wagon all through the playoffs. They've never really felt like they've been in trouble. They play such a complete team game. But the hope that I have is that when they run into the chaos of this Florida team, it's going to implement an element of, this is a team that's got a level of swagger that we haven't really faced before. They're super gritty. I think the intense chip and go hockey that Florida plays against this deep Vegas team might lead to some fireworks. That's my hope.
Well, dude, what's interesting to me, because you brought it up, Pete, let's say Vegas wins the series in 6 comfortably, right? This will be like a dominant playoff run. Like I will look back and be like, wow, there was no danger. They were just in control the whole way for the most part. And coming into the playoffs, I was kind of like, well, Colorado's the sleeping giant. They're going to be better than you. And then Edmonton's been up your ass the whole second half of the year, and they're better. You know, I'm just like, last year, Colorado had a pretty effortless playoff run, and I was expecting that. You know, like I was like, yeah, okay. This year, if they pull it off, watching them do it, I've just been like, their comfortable playoff dominance shocked the shit out of me.
And like every step of the way, if they're able to get to Bobrovsky and make him look like normal human Bobrovsky, every step of the way they will have encountered like an elite goalie or a goalie playing at an elite level. Or I guess you can make the argument against like Stuart Skinner, but like, you know, they got Hellebuck in the first round. They got Stuart Skinner, who was looking pretty good, and they made him look like dog shit. Yeah. And then you get to Jake Ottinger, who, you know, I know that like he had his ups and downs this playoff, but like the big thing with Jake Ottinger was like, he is him during the playoffs, and a sub 900 save percentage for Ottinger too. And like, so if you get to Bobrovsky, you're going to be steadily like demoralizing guys who have been kind of put on this pedestal as like the most important position on the ice.
I think if they get into game 1 and they put 3 or more past Bob, there will be win or lose. I think there'll be an element of Florida's game that's like, oh shit, like this is the first team that's really unsettled him right off the bat. So that'll be interesting to see. That's a great point.
Okay. Well, I mean, you're talking about like, you know, the like Florida, you know, we can say has been consistent, but it hasn't felt extremely sustainable. Like, I don't think that anybody has been like expecting Florida to win 11 out of 12 games. And I don't think that people expect that to continue. And like, I think I've been waiting for the past like 3 rounds for Bob to kind of the switch to kind of be flipped, because he is like the biggest Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde of goaltending in the NHL. And, you know, the switch has stayed on the entire time since that first round. You know, will that continue? I don't know, but like it's incredible that it has stayed on as long as it has.
Does the rest scare you?
Knowing who Bob is.
Does the rest scare you for Bob?
No, because historically, like it's been shown that the more rest he has, the better he is. And like, you know, that's kind of why we've seen him fall apart in like the second round of the playoffs in years past, where it's like, you know, you keep going back to a goalie, runs out of steam. And whether it's like a conditioning thing with Bob, like he usually kind of the bottom falls out at some point. Now, like obviously that hasn't been the case this year, but they also haven't been playing a ton of games either.
Right.
Like they're going through teams 5-game series, 4-game series. So like he's not playing a ton, even though he's facing a lot of shots. I do think though, like Florida probably wants to get back on the ice as soon as possible, given how much of a buzzsaw they've been.
Yeah, he does well with rest, but you have that fun breakdown. It's like teams that sweep. I think it's like, what is it, 4 and 5?
Dude, it's actually crazy.
It's a wild stat of, when you have a ton of rest after a sweep in the conference finals and then you get to a cup, the numbers are interesting because it's not one way or the other definitively.
So there's been 10 sweeps in conference finals history. 1990, Bruins swept the Caps, then lost to the Oilers 4-1 in the final. 92, 2 sweeps. Pens swept the Bruins, Hawks swept the Oilers, Pens ended up sweeping the Hawks in the final. 03, Ducks swept the Wild, lost to the Devils in 7. 09, Penguins swept the Canes, beat the Wings. 2010, Hawks sweep the Sharks, they win it. 2013, Bruins sweep the Pens, lose. 2019, Bruins sweep the Canes, lose. 2022, Avs sweep the Oilers, beat Tampa. So 10 times ever, 4 and 5 in the finals after the sweep going into this one. And the Bruins are 0 and 3 in the final after sweeping the Eastern Conference Finals.
Love that for us.
Right? It's like, what a great fun fact for you to read to us, man. That's awesome. But no, it is funny. It does feel like this Panthers team has just been all gas, no brakes. They're like the fucking guy in Mad Max spitting gasoline into the engine, just ripping straight through the desert. And it's like, when is this going to run out? But you might not see it run out. That's the crazy thing. And if Bob, good God, if he just plays lights out like this, you got to look at that. The Conn Smythe's got to be either Matty Tkachuk or Bob on the Panthers, right? And if Bob keeps playing like this, how do you not give it to him? And it'll be wild to see. Wild.
Okay, so before we do our final predictions, we're going to go back down memory lane for the playoffs. So sometimes Pete, Dan, and I play this little game called Satisfaction Guaranteed. So we say if the teams that made the playoffs gave their fans a satisfaction guaranteed promise, how much of the fans, what percentage of the fans' money should they get back based on their performance? So we'll start with the Bruins because it's obviously 100%. Yeah. Literally the most not-satisfied fan base on earth. I don't even have much more to say. We've talked enough about them, but it is the most colossal collapse. I think
they owe us money.
Yes,
like
dude,
they owe us the what we paid, and then they owe us like damages on top of that.
Actually,
it's emotional damages.
We've been doing this a long time. The first 200% refund that we've ever seen.
And
I think he's right.
He's right, dude. There's genuine emotional damage that came with that performance.
That is amazing. The only thing I'll say about the series, I know your answer, Pete, because you said it earlier. If the Bruins had the exact regular season they had, and then made it to the finals and were up 3-1 in the finals and then blew 3 straight, losing game 7 at home. Is that worse than what they did, or is losing in the first round to a wild card team worse?
I think losing in the first round is worse, like from an optics perspective, because like it's humiliating. Like 31 other fan bases now get to make all the jokes they want, and you can't say anything.
Forever.
Like there's no retort. You make it to the Stanley Cup final and you go to a game 7, like you got so close, and it would probably be like more damaging to my soul to watch that happen. And it would be so painful, and I may not ever like live it down. Like it's like the Patriots 18-1, where it's like they had a perfect season. They came so close and it just didn't break their way at the finish line. And like, yeah, that hurts so bad, but you can't say that they embarrassed themselves either.
Dude, that's what I think is the difference maker, is what worse are we talking about? And I completely agree with Pete. Like, if we're talking embarrassment, it's the first round. No question about it. But if it is my emotional capacity, it's probably the cup final. Because if that team with Berg coming back, Krejci coming back, making it through the Panthers, beating the Maple Leafs, like if they went to the cup and then lost after being up 3-1, I might never recover from that.
Yeah.
But the embarrassment levels way, way worse losing in the first round.
Yes.
Yeah, and like going to the cup final, it's like emotionally investing every part of your body and brain for 2 months versus 2 weeks, like in the first round.
Exactly.
So I think like I would just like collapse from exhaustion if they were to lose in the Stanley Cup final like that.
But great point though, for to keep it in the scope of this game, fans would get 10% of their money back if we lost in the final, and we got 200% of it back for what they just put us through.
Fucking brutal.
Okay, so next one, we'll stay in the Eastern Conference and go through. Islanders lose in 6 to the Canes. One of you start. What percentage money do those Islanders fans get back?
I go 0 here. I think you snuck into the playoffs. You were playing the Canes. You had absolutely no hopes or dreams of winning that. You ended up winning 2 games. Great job. you were satisfied. Please leave.
Even with they brought in Bo.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that would be my counter argument. Like it would be like maybe 5 or 10% just because you went in and made a big splash at the in midseason. But then again, like to counter my counter argument, they locked Bo up.
Yes,
like
that's
so
my
it's
thing.
not just a rental.
That
like,
wasn't
they
a
got a
rental
good
to
player
win.
for a long time.
Good point.
That wasn't a rental to win. They re-signed him, so
They got a blowout win at home too, Game 3 in front of the
good.
fans. That's nice.
That
Let's go 5. We agree on 5%.
No, I'm going 0.
I'm with Pete. I want.
You guys can have your own answers. I'm saying 0.
Okay. Lightning losing 6 to the Leafs.
0. Like for me, like it's it's tough, but like you just made the Stanley Cup final 3 years in a row and you won 2 of them. At some point you run out of gas.
Yeah.
And like I think they ran out of gas against a pretty good team, even though they flamed out in the second round, talking about Toronto, but like Toronto's a good team this year.
Yeah.
And like I think the margins in that series were pretty tight. Like both teams played really well, and Tampa just came up on the short end, and they were a worse team this year than they had been the previous 3 years. So I think that's not super disappointing. I wouldn't want any money back.
But are the Lightning fans though? Are the Lightning fans more satisfied than the Islanders fans? Because you gave the Lightning fans a full refund.
What? No, he didn't.
Yeah, he gave 0.
No, 5%.
Or sorry. That's what I mean though. He said no refund because you're completely satisfied. Islanders.
Yeah.
And then or a 95. And then but you're saying it was the Lightning fans should be more satisfied.
Yeah, because I think you look at the bigger picture for the Lightning. Like you lost to a good team in the first round after 3 straight years in which you made super deep runs. Like you can't expect it every year, especially in that Atlantic division where you knew that you were going to get a real tough matchup no matter where you finished.
Insane. What do you got?
I'm going to say 15% money back.
Okay.
Because I hear all that. When you factor in the years past, that's a fair point. However, I do think that they were the better team in many of those games, and that sucks. And then I'm throwing in the extra dash of salt here. It blows to be the team that gave the Leafs their first round 1 victory in 20 years. That sucks. I wouldn't want to be that fan. So I'm being a little bitter, but yeah, I want 15% of my money back. I'm very satisfied, but you're still a good team. You're not as good as the past few years, but I think mostly being the one to lose to the Leafs is what's.
I went up to 30. I was being nice to the fans down there. I went up to 30, but because of that alone, I was just like, God, I would have been so. Honestly, Pete, when we got up 3-1 against Florida, and I thought I was getting greedy that we were through already, I was thinking to myself, we must beat the Leafs because I just didn't want to ever, like if that curse was going to break, it was like, it cannot be us.
Yeah.
So I felt a little sympathy for the Tampa fans.
I wanted it. I wanted it so bad. I wanted the Leafs in the second round just to be the team that kind of like undid their first round Super Bowl, where it was like, have your parade now, but man, the second round it would have been so funny for the Leafs to finally get through and then meet the Bruins in the second round, their boogeyman, and then have it happen again.
Yeah.
It just would have been the funniest possible outcome.
Dude. Especially because it was like, I'm sure you do too, but we have a lot of Toronto friends that love the Leafs, and once we were out, I was like, well, you know what? Maybe let's just let this be the Leafs year. I'm happy for those guys. And then they just immediately get murdered by Florida. And he was like, even when I'm rooting for you, you guys lose.
Yeah.
You're absolutely killing me.
Brutal.
Okay, next one. Rangers lose in 7 to the Devils.
If I'm a fan, I'm demanding 50% of my money back here. I think that was what's funny? The Devils had such a great season, and kudos to them, best road team around. They got it back to 2-2 and then ended up winning that series. But I think they immediately get to Carolina and show that they are young and they don't have playoff experience and got shit pumped.
Fair.
And I'm like, dude, you look at the experience on that Rangers team and the runs that those guys have made, and I'm like, you can't lose to this young team with home ice. That was an unacceptable. I would be furious if I was a Rangers fan.
How much you giving back to him, Pete?
I might go even more. I might say like 65%. That number one, they went all in. With their midseason moves. Like there was talk about like oh, we're a super team. I never bought into that because I was like, this team still has flaws, and going out and getting Tarasenko and Patrick Kane doesn't help you defensively. Like it helps you put goals in the net, and that you need that. But like, that part of it, I think raised expectations. Also losing to, a rival, like Rangers fans and Devils fans hate each other. So like that hurts a little extra. I think that they were very poorly coached in the first round, which would make me really, really mad at like what could have been, especially in a 7-game series. And then like, beyond that, like I think the effort level wasn't the most impressive, from that Rangers team. There were just a lot of flat, uninspiring performances in that first round that I would be pretty angry about as a fan. And it would leave me with a sort of sour taste in my mouth.
Completely agree. Game 7, especially.
Dude.
Like that was
100%.
A complete lay down.
Which one did they, I guess 7, they were really flat, but one of those early ones, maybe 3 at MSG, like that was like step on throat time. Just win that game at home and that series is over, and they like shot twice in the first period.
Yeah.
I'm going to give them, dude, I'm pissed if I'm a Rangers fan. 75%. And here's another reason, because they were in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. Like that team is in their mind coming into this year. They're like, we're a wagon and we're adding Kane and Tarasenko and it's the Devils. Great point, Pete. And Dan, to your point about them being young, I think that's why I'd want even more money back. Because if the Devils went on a Panthers run here, I'd be like, well, they were pretty good. But if I'm a Rangers fan, I'm like, they stink.
That's what I'm saying.
Lose to them.
Like they showed immediately that they don't know how to play in the playoffs, and for some reason the Rangers made it look like they did, and that's terrible.
Rangers fans pounding on doors trying to get some money, dude. Okay, Western Conference round 1, Jets losing 5 to Vegas. Pete, what do you got?
I mean, I guess like probably 25 to 30%, just because like this core, man, has got to be really disappointing. In the sense that like they kept the core together after everybody thought they were going to break it up last year, and they seemed to be okay during the regular season. But God, there's just something missing in that group. They don't have like the it gene, whether it's Scheifele, whether it's Wheeler. They just seem to be missing that. And they didn't seem to even care that they were missing it in the first round. And that's what bothered me. But like, again, you look back on it, Vegas is a really good team, and they made it look pretty easy against Winnipeg. And so, it's sort of like the Bruins Panthers thing where it's like, okay, you can look back on it and say we lost to a much better team. But God, that first round was so forgettable for the Jets. It's so uninspiring. And now I think you absolutely have to make some wholesale changes to that organization and that roster makeup this offseason.
Dude, how many? So I gave him 15. And I actually like your arguments. I probably should, especially I've been so loose with the cash. I should have given him more, but I'm giving him 15, especially because they couldn't even grab a home game. Like that crowd went so nuts for 3 and 4, and they stole game 1. You'd think, let's lose in 6.
I'm with Pete at like 25%. I think it's mostly if I'm a fan, I'm just so unsatisfied with the team. It's not even necessarily the playoff performance. I'm like, what? I don't even know what you guys are doing. They all hate each other. They hate the coach. They hate the management. It's just
bad vibes.
It's awful. It's awful.
Yeah,
dude. How many? Or I don't know if there's a good comp, but it's like it's funny to me that we've seen teams in the past. There's a few right now that just don't have a captain, right? The Bruins did it with the Bobby Orr years, and it can be fine when if you're like, hey, we just have a bunch of us that we see as equal leaders and however we want to call it. And it's just so funny to see the Jets be like, we're stripping our captain of the sea, and it's not because we have no leadership and we're out of control in here. And I was like, well, it is exactly because of that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Seems to be.
So the guy that everybody wants traded and was like seen as a big time cancer for the past several years, you're taking away the sea, but not because of him, just because of you want to.
We're cool in here.
Yeah, whatever you say.
and we're just going to keep him on the team, and everything's going to be totally fine. It's just such a disaster.
Ridiculous decision.
It's unbelievable that it worked so well. I guess you could say that it worked well. Like in San Jose, the vibes were never awful. Like that team just kept losing, and they kept just trying to like pass the sea to maybe somebody who would maybe register something a little bit differently. But like Marlowe, Thornton, and Pavelski all liked each other.
Yeah,
like it was never like there's some shit going on in this room. It was just like, hey, why don't you try? Maybe it'll work for you.
Yeah, and like that's
True.
I feel like the Rangers were in a similar situation where it's like, what do we do here? And it's not that we have any inside scoop in these locker rooms, but I swear just the eye test, you can tell where you're like, those guys like each other. And yeah, they're trying to figure it out, but they like each other. And these guys don't.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a real problem.
So sketchy.
Okay, next one. Kings lose to Oilers in 6. I'm really curious what you guys have for this one.
I'm at 0. We obviously were tapped in with these guys. I think that was you're running into the buzzsaw matchup of Connor and Draisaitl, and you have goalie problems. You were ahead of schedule last year. You're a great team that started slow but finished strong. I think that the future is bright, and unfortunately, that's just like a brutal first round matchup. I think it's 0.
Pete, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, like maybe 5, just because it's like the same opponent that you lost to last year. Like it's got to be a little frustrating that you just like can't. They're kind of running into their own boogeyman at this point, and like there's a frustration that like Leon and Connor just like killing you, and it's god damn it. Like, but you're right in the sense that like the future in LA is still awesome, and you can't really look at a whole lot that happened in that series and be like, this is you're not pointing many fingers. Like you just kind of ran into a better team, and it's frustrating because LA got better and they were a better team this year than they were last year. But so is Edmonton. Like it was just a case of two teams getting better and then running into each other again.
Yeah. I think the up 3-0 game 4 is the only thing that you're like, fuck, that could have changed everything. But
I threw him 10% just because of that game. That was such a killer. But you guys are right. They came in my mind, they came in with goalie issues, and then they lost because they had goalie issues, and I was like, okay, like that was just about what we all thought was going to happen.
Exactly.
But I love what you guys said though, because even though they did lose quicker, by the way, because it was 7 last year, I'm pretty sure. You saw improvement. It felt like, like last year they stole one in Edmonton and then got blown out in game 3 at home because they weren't ready for the moment. And this year it's like they kind of stepped up in a few of those bigger games.
Yeah.
Ran into a buzzsaw. Okay. Wild lose to Dallas in 6. Wild fans, what are you giving them?
Pete, you can go.
I mean, it's got to be like 85%, just because like it's the Minnesota Wild, it's Minnesota sports. Like at some point you got to win something, right?
Yeah,
like,
dude.
And just I didn't see a ton of fight from the Wild, and it's it's frustrating because this team did seem to be turning a corner in terms of being a fun and entertaining team last year, and now you're kind of back to being this grindy, like sort of unspectacular, mild team, and it's got to be painful, especially like the goaltending situation and how that played out, where it just like didn't make sense to go to Fleury. Like it was a real like god damn it, like we're doing this again for the Minnesota Wild. So like if you are a frustrated Wild fan and you're angry and you want 85% of your money back, I am absolutely saying here it is, because I'm not going to contest that.
Yeah, you're the customer service. You're like this. Well, you've got some really good points here. That's like 8 first round losses in a row.
You're screaming at me, but you're making some good points here.
I think it's that high too, because dude, the first round problem is so insane. You are becoming the new Toronto Maple Leafs. You lose in the first round all the time. You're also losing to a team that you have history with, a team that stole you, stole your franchise. Mm-hmm. It's Texas hockey versus Minnesota hockey. And you put out this performance, it's just such a mess over there. I think they're pissed, and they should be pissed.
Yeah, I gave him my notes. I gave him 60, but I actually like what you guys are saying.
It's high.
The fan base, what we talked earlier about being spoiled, with Boston sports or whatever. It's easy to forget how annoying it is to be so consistently beaten down at whether that's never make the playoffs or losing the first round every year. Just not seeing any improvement is such a killer as a fan base. So to come in this season excited, 100-point season, right? I think they were like $1.03 or something.
And I'll say this: I like the Minnesota Wild have some of my favorite fans in the entire league, just because they have that self-awareness where like they know that they're just perennial disappointments, and they're really smart hockey fans. and they're really grounded in what their team is and what their team hasn't been for years. And I just really like that self-awareness and that self-deprecating characteristic that they have to them.
That's one of the.
I want good things for them.
I was just about to say that,
good
dude.
fans.
I was just about to say that. I always say this to Dan. I inexplicably just love the Wild. Like, I just want them to be good, and I want them to win something.
They're
That
a great
awesome.
team. Pete said it. Like, it's a Minnesota team. They got great uniforms. They've got cool players. Bill Guerin's the man. Their fans are awesome and nice and smart. I want good things for them. I want them to be happy. And unfortunately, the team won't let them be happy.
Okay. Next one, Avs losing 7 to the Kraken. I'll start, and I think they were hurt, and losing Landy pretty much killed their chance of a full repeat run. It's already hard to repeat, but and it's hard. You know, if fans were calling my customer service, and I'd be like, "You won last year. Get off the phone."
Yeah.
But surely you expected to beat the expansion team Kraken. So I went as high as 70 because I was like, if you're an Avs fan, you are appalled with that performance in the first round. But what do you guys think? Am I too high?
No, I think it's up there. I think I'm probably at like 60. It's not good.
It's the Kraken, dude. And I love the Kraken, don't get me wrong, but that's a tough L. What do you think, Pete?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of high, and I get what you're saying. And like, you know, obviously, if you want to put together a Stanley Cup title defense, you want to go longer than one round, and you want to probably not lose to the Seattle Kraken, who were one of the worst teams in the league last year. But at the same time, they were super banged up. They were going up against the Seattle Kraken team that looked really good for most of this season. The one thing that they failed to have that would have made them a much better team in the standings was goaltending. And somehow, some way, Philip Grubauer became a different version of himself and looked good for the first time in a Seattle Kraken uniform. And he goalied the Colorado Avalanche. And I think at the end of the day, you can never really be all that upset about getting goalied, especially when you're not at full strength.
Yeah.
So, like, I think that there's certainly disappointment from Colorado fans, but you can look at it in a way and be like, it just wasn't our year. Like, it just the cards didn't it didn't break right for us. So, like, there's not an overwhelming sense of disappointment.
And we have some Avs fan friends that said almost exactly that they were like, it just wasn't our year. We knew even going into the playoffs. They did trick me, though, as they got super hot down the last quarters. They hit the quarter pole there and, like, came from a wild card spot to first in the Central. And I was like, I also
thought there was an element of, like, they were going to be healthier than ever. And also, like, the past several years, the Tampa Bay Lightning just didn't care about the regular season.
Yes,
like,
dude,
they just didn't turn it on. And then when the playoffs started, they go, okay, season starts today. And they just look like a different team. And I thought that was going to be the case for the Avalanche, where they were just going to show up for game one of the playoffs and be like, you're all fucked.
Yeah,
like, let's go.
Dude, so
Pete, I also thought that was happening this year again with Tampa, because if you remember, they pounded Toronto in game one. And I was like, oh my God, are they alive again? Yeah. And then that didn't happen. But holy shit, I think that's true. All right, I like that a little bit.
Okay, I'm fired up for your guys' answer on this one. Leafs lose in 5 to the Panthers in the second round.
I think it's high, dude. It's like, I didn't realize we're going to second round. It's high. You lost to
do you think it's high?
It's a 99%.
No, dude.
It's a
like
99%.
No, you got out, dude. All you had to do was get out. They got out. If the Leafs fans are calling me right now,
Where did it get you? It got your general manager fired, and now now you don't know the direction of this team.
Dude,
like,
this is what I'm saying. Like, it's awful.
If you were a Leafs fan,
it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything to get out of the first round if you immediately get run over, and the same problems that you've been running into in the first round happen 2 weeks later. It doesn't matter. Like, you still have the same questions about this group and, like, what might be missing. And now I think, like, the worst part about it, I think that Kyle Dubas is a good general manager. I think he had a good sense of this team. And because it flamed out the way that it did, it cost you a smart guy in the room. And now I feel they think that they're going to have to make, like, some really drastic changes. And I don't even know if that's the case. Like, I think this team is, like, kind of close.
Dude, and now Dubas is going to go like revamp the Penguins in your eyeball. And it's like, oh, dude, yeah. Damn it.
It's super high, man. You finally got out of the first round. You had the season you had. You have these guys. And yes, now we've seen that Florida's amazing. But dude, you get gentlemen swept that way that it's so high.
But I will say this, though, because maybe you guys are right. But I will say this. When the Leafs fans bought this deal and I said satisfaction guaranteed, there was fine print that said, if we get out of the first round, I will not be taking any of your fucking calls. So the fact that we got out, it's pissing me off that now they're mad about it. They moved the goalpost.
At least they dumped the jokes, right? Like, at least they get to lose the first round jokes that I'm sure were so tiring. And like, it's, at this point too, I was sick of seeing them because they were uninventive. They were non-creative. It was just the same crap over and over and over again about the first round. So at least they get to lose that, but I don't think you get to feel good about winning the first round when the bottom falls out immediately.
And your gentleman sweep is so tough, dude, because it's like, yeah, you avoid those jokes now, but you are still like, I mean, I guess like you got out of the first round and then immediately got dismissed.
Are you guys down to like 50% refund if round 2 had gone 7 games? Does that matter? Or?
I think if round 2
fight,
yeah, I think if round 2 won 7 games, it's 0. Because I'm like, you've gone further than you've gone in 2 decades.
Okay. Devils losing 5 to Canes.
Low for me. I think, again, it's kind of like what we talked about with LA. You are so ahead of schedule. You had an awesome Game 7 series win against a huge rival team. Then you get up against this Carolina team that's clearly just much stronger than you with much more experience, and they showed it from the first puck drop. I think you're bummed. So I'll call it maybe 5 to 10. But I think that one's low. I think you're like, yeah, we got to the second round. That's great. We shouldn't have even been in the playoffs.
I had it at 10-2. Like I said, Pete, we were in Jersey, and every fan, granted, you kind of knew you were dead. Like when they were down 3-1 and lost that home game. Almost every Devils fan we talked to walking out of that bar was like, great season, man. You know, like we're gonna be here for a long time. And I was like, okay, they're feeling pretty good. Do you agree?
Yeah, I love Devils fans too. Like it's a bunch of degenerates that like are such a tight knit community.
Gritty fans.
Yeah, right.
I love
Blue
Jersey
collar,
fans.
like I would say it's like closer to 20 for me, just because I felt like they were the better team and Carolina was banged up, and like I know they're a good team, but like you look at how unprepared the Devils were to play the first couple of games of that series, and it's kind of inexcusable. And I think that does fall on Lindy Ruff. And then you have like the goaltending decision that I thought was really questionable with Vanacek, and so like there were just some. I thought that they should have had an opportunity to win that series, and they kind of got in their own way.
Yeah.
And that would leave a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. And so like, that's why I go up to 20, but like in the grand scheme of things, you can say that this was a good season. You could say that this kind of made them take the first big step into something bigger, but it's hard not to look at it and be like, well, it could have been more.
Yeah.
It could have been more.
And or at least a fight, right? Like you brought up the fight earlier.
Right.
I think that's a great point. I think certainly Devils fans expected to be in a tilt with the Canes.
Yeah.
And then not get run. Okay, Oilers losing 6 to Vegas. I'll start this one because I think this one is massively high. Like just below Bruins, like 95%. Western Conference Finals last year, all-star goalie, second best. I didn't mean to put that in quotes. Sorry, Stuart Skinner. You were an all-star. That was mean. Second best team in hockey, the best team in hockey the second half of the year. Historic seasons from McDavid and Draisaitl. And I just think they thought they were doing it or making it to another round at least. Like I think Draisaitl was like, it's a waste of a year. And I think that's what the fans feel too.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I think, not taking anything away from how good Vegas is, but 100% and in 6 too. It's like that's just brutal.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty high. And, for all the reasons that you just said, and also like, they put together a run last year and they said at the end of the run, like it's disappointing for it to end this way. But, we took a big step. Now it's on us to continue it next year. And this year, you take a step backwards. And, again, no disrespect to Vegas, but like they exposed them as a team that wasn't ready for that series and wasn't ready to swing with the heavy hitters. And that's so disappointing for an Edmonton team that seemed like it had everything all together, really turning the corner, especially in the second half of the season. They were the best team in the league, even better than the Bruins since early January. So, that's really, really disappointing.
Yeah, crushing season for the Oilers.
For sure.
Bad one. Okay, here's an easy one. Kraken lose in 7 to Dallas.
0. No doubt 0.
Absolute easiest 0 I've ever given.
0.
Made the playoffs would have been 0. Like if the Kraken made the playoffs, and I would say the fans get no money back, and then they beat the defending champs.
Won 0 games.
Yeah, beat the defending champs in a Game 7 on the road.
I think with the exception of Florida, there's no one who could be possibly happier than Kraken fans.
Cool.
Yeah, and no, like that team did it without any like real high end talent. Like that's the most impressive thing to me, how much they spread it throughout the course of that lineup and just how much every single guy showed up. And even like a blue liner like Will Borgen was scoring goals. And it's like, damn, like they're getting stuff from everybody in this lineup and they're rolling 4 lines. They're like super exciting. They play with such high intensity. They all buy in, and it's just really fun to watch that team sort of come together and realize kind of their potential. And like we talk about like the Devils making a big step forward and kind of like, establishing their footing. The Kraken now are one of those teams where it's like, okay, now we go out and we start filling in like this high end, the top of our lineup. And like a guy like, Matty Beniers is only going to get better.
Yeah.
Matty Beniers rocks.
Oh my God, he's such a player.
So as long as they can get like good goaltending, they are going to be a team that is worth fearing for sure.
Yeah, I think the way that they played, we talked about it, the way that they play that 4-line hockey, they roll without any real superstars. You look at the success they have when you go into the offseason, there's not big holes you need to fill. Like, so all they do is really, maybe you take a B player and turn it into a B plus player. You take a B plus, turn it into an A minus, and all of a sudden they're doing exactly what Vegas does. And it's like, shit, are you guys going to make a second round again next year, third round next year? Like they're in such a good position. I think that they're, like I said, you couldn't possibly be happier.
Dude, the not big hockey market crowds' heads are going to explode when it's Vegas Kraken Western Conference Finals for the next decade.
Yeah, fucking seriously.
Dude, it's the Winter Classic next year.
Oh shit, is it? I didn't even realize that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's Vegas and Seattle at the Winter Classic next year. It's gonna be quite fun.
Yeah,
amazing.
And I think that it's in Seattle, which has got to piss off so many fan bases that like they've been in the league for 3 years and they get a Winter Classic. That's got to make so many people angry
for sure. But we talked about Minnesota fans and Jersey fans. Dude, they're young, but Seattle and Vegas fans are fun as hell.
Yeah,
they're such fun groups of people. They've embraced these teams. It's like, fuck yeah, I want it. That Winter Classic is going to have such a good show out. It's going to be amazing.
Okay, last 2. Canes get swept by the Cats. What are you giving Canes fans?
Listen, it's one of those funny things where it's the element of the longer you last, the more it hurts. As far as satisfaction, I want to say high because you have got swept in the Eastern Conference Finals again. That is so shitty. But your guys are banged up. You ran into this wild team of destiny in Florida, so I'm not going over 50, but I am going to say 45.
Oh, I'm low, dude, because it's like, you're right, they're hurt. They're so, I can't believe they were even in this round. And they were all those games are so close. I'm like 10.
You're the second best team in the league points-wise, or in the East points-wise, maybe the league, and you can't get swept again.
It's a tough
for me, it's like a 50% just because it's a third straight time. Like they're 0-12 on their last 3 Eastern Conference finals appearances. And it's this element of like something missing in the DNA where like they just can't get over the hump and they don't have that game breaker. And it's frustrating to me. If I were like a Carolina fan, I'd be really frustrated that they didn't address anything mid-season. Like, yeah, they went out and got Gostisbehere. They went out and added around the margins a little bit, but like, there were guys out there. There was like a Timo Meier that they could have gone out, and I know he had a tough playoff run for the Devils where he like was almost non-existent for most of the run. But like a Timo Meier certainly moves the needle and does a whole lot for a team like the Carolina Hurricanes that need that high-end talent at the top. And yeah, you can talk all you want about like them losing a Svechnikov and losing some of their other key contributors and like a Pacioretty who they brought in to help goal scoring. But like the problems that they ran into in the Eastern Conference Final seemed inevitable. And like they were going to catch up with them at some point, and they just didn't address them. And at some point, you have to go out and do it. And they sort of play like as close to a Moneyball style of like a team building approach as any team in the NHL does, where like they don't like overpaying and they don't like paying more than market value. But sometimes you have to do it. You have to swallow your pride and you have to overpay to bring in guys that make a difference.
Yeah.
Because nobody's going to applaud you for being frugal. Nobody's going to applaud you for being being stingy and being like a great negotiator if it doesn't lead to winning.
For giving
and
Jordan
at some
Staal
point
a 10-year, $60 million contract.
Yeah.
Like,
and at some point, you have to do more than just make the Eastern Conference Final and say, well, we gave it a good run. You have to win at some point.
Exactly. You have to win a game.
Dude, oh my God.
Like it's
that's a start. For sure.
A good start in the Eastern Conference Final is winning a game. It's like
my favorite part of Moneyball, which was a great movie. My favorite part of Moneyball was the A's don't win ever. Like they don't win the World Series. They just like get in the playoffs. And then there's like this title card at the end that's like the Red Sox would win the World Series by using Moneyball tactics. And I'm like, no. They paid for Manny. They didn't win the World Series because they were using Moneyball. They bought Manny.
Yeah, and then they went and got Kurt Schilling.
Yeah.
Like it's like, that's not what did it, guys.
Yeah.
Oh,
we're playing Moneyball, but we just have so much more money.
Yeah, there's a ton of it.
Yeah.
And dude, also, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, but I'm like 90% sure there was a leak. It was like, or not a leak, but like Elliot Friedman had a scoop that the Canes were in on Timo and just like weren't willing to pay enough.
Yep.
Yeah, they weren't willing to meet the price.
Yeah, and I'm like, to your point, Pete, I'm like, dude, pay. Do you want to win? Pay the price.
Right.
And what a wake-up call.
And if you're not willing to go out and reinforce and add more guys of value, you can't be like, well, we lost a couple guys, so like, you know, you have to prepare for the possibility of losing guys. Like if one guy going down or two guys going down completely tanks your season, then your roster is kind of built wrong. You know, like
agree.
There are some guys that were indispensable and like it's going to hurt your team no matter what when they go down. But if like losing one or two guys kills your season, then you probably that's a roster building failure.
And the other thing that sucks is as a fan is even when you're banged, I'm sure coming into this playoffs, the fans were like, we're too hurt to do it. But once you get to the ECF, you're like, well, maybe we are going to do it. And then you get swept again. And it's an absolute disaster. Okay. Last one, Dallas and 6 to Vegas.
I think this is going to surprise you. I'm high here.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think this is like, I think it's 55-60 for me because same deal, dude. Vegas is fantastic. They played fantastic in round 1 and round 2, but so is Dallas, dude. Dallas is a deep team. They had guys who were playing out of their shoes. You all of a sudden have Jason Robinson kind of waking up in this series. You were an over 100-point team all season long. You have Jake Ottinger in net. You can't go down 3-0. You can't have Jamie Benn act like a fucking psychopath as your leader. Everything
For me,
about... Go, Pete,
ahead,
go.
Sorry. I was going to say, like, for me, it's like you started a 40 based off of that game 3.
100%
like,
agree.
That game 3 was inexcusable. Like, it was the most humiliating, most inexcusable showing from a team that I've ever seen. Like, the quickness with that implosion, the game was over 4 minutes into the game.
Dude, less than that.
Less than that. It's not excusable whatsoever. And I think what makes it hurt so much more is that game 2, they were a minute away from tying the series. And if it weren't for a Ryan Suter absolute bone job behind his own goal line with the turnover and then the missed coverage in front of the net, you win that game and you were a much better team. And like to go back to Dallas tied up 1-1 and not down 2-0. And then follow it up with that game 3 absolute debacle. Like you started at 40%, and then I know that they put together a nice little 2-game run to make it interesting. But that game 6 showing, they were flat as hell too.
Dude,
so like
again,
2
back in
absolute
Dallas, like,
no shows.
It's
Two
just
absolute no-shows in that series, and it's at least like a 50% for me.
Yep, that's honestly that's exactly how I feel. It's like, you're so right about the game 2 bad bounce, but you even go down 0-2 and you look at an example like Jersey and New York, and it's like you can even this up. You're going home, like take care of business. Man, you are playing in front of your fans, who, by the way, are good fans.
Yeah,
Stars fans show up.
Not that night they weren't, but I really can't blame them because they had nothing.
Truly.
Like I saw the second intermission, that place was filing out. And normally I'd be like, "Oh, come on, you pathetic losers!" But I would be like, at that point, I was like, "Yeah, I'd probably leave too."
Yeah.
There was nothing to keep me in that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, dude,
period.
less than 2 minutes into the game, and your captain loses his mind, and it's honestly. That play felt like a showing of Jamie Benn going, we can't win.
Yeah.
I'm out of control. Like, so I get
And
the
everybody
fans.
followed suit. Everybody
dude,
followed
yes.
suit.
Team completely shut down. We joked about it. It was like Vegas had fucking 9 shots and they had 5 goals. And it was like, okay, this is insanity. So, yeah, I think it's 55-60 for me.
I like this take actually because I was thinking more big picture, and I was like, well, 6 games in the Western Conference Finals. If you're the Dallas fan, that's pretty. Like, if you just look at the finish line, I'm like, it's 25%. But you're right, the 2 no-shows are a killer. Game 3 for me, I mean, I guess both because you're trying to make history here with Game 6. But Game 3, I was talking to Dan. That series didn't feel like what's the expression? The series doesn't start till the road team wins. That series felt like completely even to me, even though it was 2-0 Vegas. Because I was like, well, Dallas is going to win these 2 at home. So like we're in for a tilt here. So I was stunned to see that go down the way it did in Game 3 and just have them unravel. Like the complete unraveling of that squad was nothing. And that I said this earlier too. They've been good for a while here. I feel like they kind of are under the radar, but I'm like, dude, they were in a final. Like this team is very competitive. So they've got the will to succeed. They've got the roster and they have the experience. So to see them just lose their goddamn minds in the playoffs at this stage was not it. Okay, so I'll hear 50. That's a pretty good answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to, and you get 0% of your money back if you make a final. So Vegas and
No
Florida, you get none of your money back. Thank
No
you
doubt.
very much. I want to hear what your guys call. Who you got and how many games.
Pete, let's hear what you're thinking about this matchup here.
Man, like I think this is going to be such a tight matchup, and I guess like my heart is pulling for Florida just because like they do feel like a team of destiny, and like if they are able to cap this off, it is probably the better story. But based off of like what I've seen in terms of consistency and sustainability, man, Vegas seems like they got it. Like I think that they're a really, really good team. So I'm going to say Vegas in 7. And I think it's going to be one hell of a final series.
I love that. Going back to what we said in the beginning, I think in very unique ways, these teams are an interesting matchup for each other. I think they play different types of hockey, but I think the way that Florida plays going up against the way Vegas plays is something Vegas hasn't seen, and vice versa. Definitely vice versa. To me, I think this is going to be a goalie battle. I think Aiden Hill is much better, even on paper, than people are aware of. I think tons of people are like, yeah, he's like a backup. I mean, he wasn't really ever the guy. He's a great goaltender. And I think if Bob can keep playing this way, that is what's going to win it. I'm saying Florida in 7.
Oh, okay. Damn. Dude, Bob is the X factor for me. It's ridiculous.
I know.
If he
It's
stays
crazy.
hot, it's going to be hard. But like Pete said earlier, they've been Vegas just been eating these big
They've been
goalies.
eating goaltenders alive,
Oh,
man.
And that's so important to think about. Like, it's just, I mean,
And another thing that I'm thinking about, it's like the 2 X factors for me is that they've been eating good goaltenders alive, and it's the William Karlsson line that just keeps eating and winning minutes against the top talent on the other side.
Yeah.
And that line has faced like the top talent that you could want to see. Like, Winnipeg has a pretty good offensive front loaded team. And then you've got Connor,
The two best players in the world.
He ate and won those minutes against Connor, and then going up against the Hintz line in Dallas, which is one of the better lines in the league. Like he keeps winning those minutes, not only neutralizing, but being productive in his own right with 10 goals. So like William Karlsson has been like a real unsung hero for me for this entire run for Vegas.
Yep. He's been so strong. And I do think that's an element of his game. The defensive element of his game is so underrated. It's so not talked about. And fuck, man, that's a good point. That matchup is
because Florida is a little top heavy, dude. Like I was looking at the stats.
If you take away and you neutralize or like you at least mitigate the damage that the Kachuk line is going to be able to do, which has been absolutely just eating everybody alive this postseason. Like if you get them back anywhere down close to earth, I think Vegas has a pretty good shot.
I'm telling you, dude, I couldn't decide. And I actually did not think, probably like a week ago, I was like, there's literally no chance I'm picking anyone but Florida to win the final. But as we got here today, I closed my eyes and I pictured winning a slot machine. Not that I've ever done that because I don't think anyone's ever won a slot machine. But I'm pretty sure when you win, it comes up 7-7-7. And I was like, yes, it's Vegas and 7.
I
love
what's
going to happen.
Fuck, I love that.
So, yeah.
Dude, you know what? I'll also say something that I think I would be very worried about if I were Florida. You look at a guy like Matty Tkachuk, and in round 2 against Toronto, he was a little quiet. He had like 5 assists, 5 points in the series. And, you know, granted, it only went 5 games, but he stayed off the score sheet. I look at a guy like Jack Eichel, who I think had 4 assists in 6 games, something like that, who has been phenomenal all playoffs. He's over a point per game. But I look at him being quiet, and I genuinely look at him going, they go up 3-0, and he's like, I'm fine. I'm going to keep playing my game here. I don't need to unload in this series.
Otter robbed him a few times too. Like he missed a couple breakaways.
I was going to say, like, the expected goals and sort of like he deserved better than what he got in that last series. So I think that there's an element of regression coming to play and saying that he's going to get his comeuppance or he's going to get his due in this series where he didn't get it. In the Western Conference
That's
final.
what I was leading up to. Like I'm saying, like I think he was a little quiet, and the XG is a great call because it's like he's still playing well. He's still showing up. I'd be worried if I were Florida because I think Eichel is going to have a huge series.
Yeah, and I think clearly we all agree, but I will be shocked. So last round, Pete, I think you picked Vegas in 6 and you were dead on.
Yeah.
I picked Vegas in 7, but we both had, I had Cats in 7, you had Canes in 7, and I was shocked to see that go 4, obviously. I'd be even more shocked if this doesn't go 6 or 7, because I just think these teams feel so tight. Play a different game, but I think I'd be blown
If it's
away.
a short series, I think it's because the bottom falls out for Florida and it just all falls apart, whether it's Bob or just like, you just kind of lose whatever magic they had bottled up. But I don't see that happening in terms of it just like the bottom completely falling out.
I think that's a great point, Pete. And it's interesting to say because they've been so fun to watch. I don't see any world here where Florida steamrolls Vegas. No. I don't think it can happen with the makeup.
Maybe, dude.
Yeah, and if they do, this will be the most dominant Stanley Cup of all time. Truly.
If they win in 4 games or 4 or 5 games, it's going to be 4 or 5 very close games. Like I don't see them blowing the doors off of Vegas at any point.
And it'll likely be 4 shutouts. Like it'll be Bob literally being an alien and not letting in a single fucking
4-1-0 in overtime with 4 Kachuk goals. Yeah. I'm just like, what is happening right now?
Oh, Jesus Christ. It's true. It's the only way it can go. All right. Well, that's the good 7-game series from all 3 of us.
Yeah, I love it.
So Vegas, you guys, I'm rolling with the Cats.
There it is. The 7-7-7
yes,
you were just talking about.
Yeah,
I knew it.
There it is.
Fucking A. That's crazy. What do you got? What else you got?
That's all I got on the playoffs. I mean, we can talk about the Star Series if you want, but
No. We've been ripping it for over an hour. I love it. Pete, do you have any lasting thoughts that are picking at your brain that you want to get out, or any things that you want to shout out heading into the final?
I mean, not really. Like, I feel like overall this has kind of been, I don't know if it's like just like a lingering disappointment of like the Bruins first round and how that ended, but like I feel like this has been sort of an underwhelming playoff run. Like the second round, especially for me, with all the blowouts, just felt like such a letdown. And I feel like I'm really, really banking on a great Stanley Cup final to bring it home for me and make it feel like, that we finally got what we deserved. Because I just feel like something's kind of been missing since the first round. The first round was great, but since then, I feel like there's kind of been a little bit to be desired.
Dude, I love that take because I feel like we've even noticed it from the page a little bit, is that especially with these conference finals, the Dallas Vegas one is funny because it goes 6 games, but that was a sweep. As weird as that sounds,
it wasn't a sweep, but like it never felt like Dallas had a real shot based off of like
that's
you go down
what
3-0 with how inconsistent the Stars have been for most of the season, you're like, there's no way that they're going to win 4 games in a row here,
Yeah.
especially after they imploded in game 3.
Yes.
Whereas like, well, who the hell are these guys? Why are like that series should have ended after game 3 in my mind.
That's what I mean. Like
Yeah.
when I say that was a sweep, I kind of mean like the energy. It's even Dallas fans in our DMs were like, they won 2 games and they were like, I mean, it's over.
Yeah.
And like it truly felt like all of the entertainment and all, I mean, fuck, man, people were like planning stuff in Vegas after game 3. It was like, it's over, it's done. And so, yeah, I do feel like a little bit of the wind of the sails was taken out by how crazy these 2 conference finals were. So I'm with you. I'm hoping, and I feel strongly that the cup final is going to be a wild one.
I hope so too, because it's like, well, we have, NBA buddies that get all into hockey during the playoffs, and a lot of the games are going down to the buzzer, right? Like the Cats was a sweep, but it's like there's OT, there's 5 OTs in the first 2 games, there's a buzzer beater, and they're like, God, hockey playoffs is so sick. And I'm like, they are, but that was also a sweep. Like at the end of the day, I wish there was a little parity here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really hope, because I agree completely, the first round was fucking awesome. So I hope this is a super back and forth. Every other night, the other team wins.
Man.
Yeah,
we deserve it.
I agree. We absolutely do. All right. Well, dude, before we let you go, is there anything you want to plug? Anything you want to give a shout out to?
yeah. Tell us about brunch and Bally and everything. I want to hear all the good stuff.
Yeah, so like all my hockey coverage is for Bally Sports. So like if you live in a Bally region, like you can find it on whatever the TV station is. I'll do like TV hits for them, but also ballysports.com, and then just like on Twitter is where like the meat of everything is. Of course, like everybody lives on Twitter. So at Pete Blackburn is just where I'm at, and then
that's a must.
I've
that's
got
a must follow, by the way.
Yeah,
for
I
the
agree.
Listeners, I'm dead serious.
Appreciate that stamp. I'll take that for
Yeah.
sure. And then I've got like a big thing launching this summer that I can't really like get into too much, but I'm like extremely excited.
Tease
about
us
it.
a little bit, dude. What? Come on.
It's like it's gonna be the primary function of what I do, and it's gonna be where you can find me on a weekly basis. And so,
Okay.
like, if you're into like the chaos and whatever I bring on Twitter, it's going to be an extension of that, and I'm very, very excited about it. But it's going to launch over the summer or like early season next year. So,
All right. Well, I think
I'm very, very excited about
That's
that. So
awesome,
that's a little
dude.
tease. For
I
people.
think the plan is when that launches, we got to get you either out here in studio or get you back on like this so we can talk all about it and we can tease it and let everyone know.
Absolutely, I'm fully down, and I love making LA trips. So anytime,
There you go.
anytime I'm out
dude.
there. Plus, I got a lot of LA friends, so I can add you guys to the stable, and
Yeah.
Oh, dude,
we can
yeah.
have a good time when I'm out there.
I was going to say, I feel like now every time you come out here, you just have to cruise through and jump on because this is just,
Yeah, of course,
it's too easy.
Absolutely, I'm in.
All right, dude. Well, fucking love it. We'll let you jump off from there. But again, what a blast having you on. And now we've just started a new recurring guest situation. Which
Let's
is
go.
Just fantastic
I love
stuff. All right,
Thanks
beautiful.
for having me.
All right, guys, that was our episode with Pete Blackburn. What an absolute beauty.
Dude,
Pumped that he's going to be coming back on more often. I think Pete's just got such a good voice in the hockey world, needs to be on the airwaves more. So happy that it can jump on ours.
He is the man, and he is so funny.
Yeah.
And I love
Hilarious.
I know everyone needs to see it, but like the chats before, the chats after, like he is a fucking gas. I love that
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. No, we're gonna have a lot more Pete on this show. So hope you guys are excited about that, just like we are. But that's it for this episode. You got anything you want to say?
One thing I was shocked about this, I think I saw a stat that was popping up because I kept asking about rest, Florida rest. I saw a stat that was like if you get 10 days or more, which they got, is that going to kill you? And the stats were bad. It was like 10 days or more, they don't win very often. But just comparing the two teams in the final. So if it's, Cats, Vegas, the team with more rest than their opponent has won every cup since 2007. So, like the Blues had more rest than the Bruins going into 2019. Blues won.
Oh,
Avs said, the team with the more rest than their Stanley Cup opponent has won every cup.
But that's got to be like a weird stat because sometimes it's like 3 days versus 4 days.
Yeah. It's almost always like a day or two apart, but just technically the team with more rest.
But if it gets to over 10 days, it's not good.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Fuck, that's weird. All right. That's something to keep an eye on. Good little factoid. All right. Well, guys, that's it for us today at the Empty Netters Podcast. We will see you guys later this week. We got some fun stuff coming up that we'll tease in next episode. We're going to be hitting the road here. But until then,
The Stanley Cup final is here, skate hard.